Today on the Marshline Minute, we're doing part 1 of my ultimate benchwork build for my signature scene on my model railroad. Alright, so the ultimate benchwork build of course starts with a good plan. So what I'm showing you here is the West Rosendale section of my model railroad. This was the part of the marsh line where I grew up. So you can see here we have the cabbage house, and we also have my house and the garage and the yard that I grew up in, and then here's the road that I lived on. So this is going to be the signature scene on the marsh line, and I'm really going to focus on the detail, and I want the bench work to be top rate, as they would say. So I've gone ahead and laid out what I want the bench work to look like. We're going to be doing a shadow box type bench work style. So that means we're going to have the valance built into the benchwork, into the backdrop. And then underneath that, we're going to have some cabinets where I can have some books and magazines and possibly a TV or something like that. And there I haven't decided what I want to put in there, but I do want it to be cabinets made out of either maple or oak underneath there. So we're going to be putting in a self-leveling foot system here in the legs of the cabinets. Because my basement floor is horribly uneven, we'll need to make adjustments in each of the legs across the 8 feet. So this is the plan that we are going to be marching forward with. So let's get right on to the build. The wood that we're going to be using for our benchwork build is quality lumber from Menards. So quality lumber is number 2 or better. It has a few knots in it. It's pretty straight stuff and doesn't have too many shark bites out of the edges. So as you can see here, I'm just cutting up our cross members using my miter saw, double checking to make sure that we've measured correctly, and we did. So we'll go ahead and chop up the rest of the cross members. Now we'll go ahead and make our adjustment feet for our legs. This is going to be a 2-inch 2x2, so a 2x2x2, and those will be used for our base of our legs. Now we'll cut the legs to length, again using 2x2s, quality lumber from Menards. Again, it's number 2 or better. It's got some knots, fairly straight, not missing too many edges. But it's not the select grade either. So it's a grade below the select. Hey Henry. What? Do you want to come show Daddy that these boards aren't the same size at the end? Point to the end of it.
Yeah, can I see?
Right there. Are they the same?
Maybe.
Do they look like they're the same length?
No.
Oh, now they are.
Now they look the same.
So I've gone ahead and marked out every 16 inches on my frame rails here of the ladder. So these are the long pieces. So every 16 inches we'll put in a cross member. And the cross members, we're going to go ahead and pre-drill the holes for the pocket screws. So I'm a big believer in using the Craig pocket screw system. Especially for model railroad benchwork, it's pretty handy to be able to do a 90-degree joint with screws and be able to move cross members within your benchwork rails if you need to. So let's imagine if you have a turnout and your turnout tortoise switch machine or servo machine needs to go right where one of your cross members is. You can easily unscrew the Craig jig holes, the Craig jig screws, and move your cross member so it doesn't interfere with your turnout switch machine. Also, you'll be able to get access to the screws even if you have fascia on the front of your benchwork. These are the pocket holes here, and that's where the screws go. So we'll go ahead and set up our drill to be backed off full bore for a couple of notches. So that way we don't strip out our screws when we put them in. We'll go ahead and glue up the lumber. And then we'll use our special Craig pocket screws and attach the cross member to the rail. One of the advantages of using screws, like if you were to use a nail gun, it'd be pretty final. But with screws, you can go ahead and back them out and get them square and flush the boards and then re-screw, and final outcome is a pretty nice joint, nice square and flush on the top and bottom. The leg mechanism that I was talking about is our 2x2x2 foot held into our legs with a T-nut and a carriage bolt. So I just drilled a hole in the foot, slammed the carriage bolt into the end, and then drilled a hole in the end of the leg, inserted the T-nut, and now you have an adjustable leg with a foot that you can grab onto. Attaching the base here, and we're using zinc coated screws. I'm using star drive screws here and keeping the base 4 inches off of the bottom of the leg. So we'll go ahead and screw from both sides on the frame just to make sure our joint is good and strong. Then we'll go ahead and put in the top part of our benchwork where our risers and sub roadbed will be. This is kind of a two-man job, but I made do with some clamps. And the valance uprights, using the pocket screws again. These are 1x2s. Get them all squared in and zap. As we finish up our valance uprights, the uprights will also be the backing for our backdrop on the scene. So that's what we'll attach our backdrop to. Again, another two-man job here. If you got a buddy, I suggest calling him up to help you with this, but go ahead and put our valance frame on top of our uprights here. So I've pre-glued the uprights at the top, and you guessed it, we're using pocket screws to attach the frame to the uprights. So now we're going to lay out our track plan on the sub roadbed, and I've made a couple of tools here to help us. I got a good old-fashioned wooden yardstick with some holes for radii that I've drilled in there, and then using a 1x, I've gone ahead and used Craig screws to screw them into the edge of the 3/4 inch sub roadbed. This will make a neat little compass for drawing out the radii on my plywood in place. I'll use my straight edge for the straight piece here. We'll bring her down to where I want the radius to start on the curve. We'll get that out of there. Then we'll just go ahead and, with the holes that I've drilled in, trace out the radii. It's Pretty simple stuff. I also use it for doing the cookie cutter style sub roadbed and drawing in the radii where I'm going to be doing my jigsaw cuts. So now I'm using a biscuit joiner to secure the two pieces of sub roadbed. Screw the sub roadbed right into the tops of the risers. We'll glue up one end. Glue up the other piece, and then we'll take our biscuit and jam them together. And that's it. Hey, the Benchwork frame is done. Now you could stop here if you didn't want to make this a furniture grade piece of model railroad, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to go ahead and in the next video we're going to put the cabinets underneath the model railroad, and as promised I'm going to break down the cost of just the framework today. So lumber, everything that is included here that you see, 1x3s, 2x2s, 1x2s, all that good stuff, and the plywood, that came out to about $85. And the hardware, screws, glue, and all that good stuff, we'll throw in an extra 10. So all day, this framework, 2 foot by 8 foot, cost $95, or if you break it down by square foot, it's $6 a square foot. So like I said, next time we're gonna put some shelving units underneath here. We're gonna use some pretty fancy plywood, get this all prettied up. We may even add our fascia and backdrop, and that'll be on part 2 of the ultimate benchwork build on the Marshline Minute. Don't forget to click here to subscribe to my channel, or better yet, check out another video about the Marshline or one of my DIY videos. Thanks for watching, and keep her in notch 8.